Good morning, everyone. My name is Aaron Allen. I'm the division manager from the local tax allocation division, and this is the 2022 local government workshop. Thank you all for joining us. We are recording this and it will be posted to our website if you need to go back and rewatch something, or if there's someone else in your office that you feel needs to see this. We will also add a timestamp document. So if you're looking for a certain topic, you will know exactly what point in the presentation to go to find that topic. Today in the workshop, we are going to be discussing My Local Tax, our portal for local government officials. We're also going to go through the LTAD website to show you the resources we have available to you there. We are going to talk about any new legislation that impacts local government officials. We get a lot of questions about that. And we will also, while you can ask questions throughout the workshop, we'll also allow a separate Q&A session at the end if you want to talk about anything outside of those topics we just talked about. So on that note, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen and we can start going through My Local Tax. So this is the homepage for the My Local Tax portal. We receive a lot of questions. People are having trouble logging in, and it's because they are in either My Deck or My Tax. Make sure you are in My Local Tax. They are three different portals. You potentially have different login information for each one. So please, before you contact us with logon problems, make sure you're in the right place. We will go to our website later where I can show you the link to get here, but just so you can see this, you can see here in the top left, it says My Local Tax. You'll also notice this help tab here. We have a link to our tutorial, which takes you step by step how to do each thing in My Local Tax. And there's also an FAQ that you can look at. I would refer to each of those items if possible before you contact us, just because most of it's covered there. There's been some updates made to My Local Tax last fall that we think made things a little more user friendly. There's still more ways that can happen, and we are working on that. But as of now, everything in that tutorial and that FAQ are current based on the current layout of My Local Tax. Now, we get a lot of questions from people where they have sent in an information exchange agreement for their local government and they are listed on it. We do not automatically create My Local Tax logons for anyone. Just because you are included on the information exchange agreement doesn't mean that we automatically set anything up for you. We don't send you any logon information. Not everyone on that agreement is necessarily interested in having an account, so we don't automatically set anything up. So if you don't currently have one, you go to this link here that says don't have a logon, register here, and you click sign up. Now I will tell you right now, I'm showing you the My Local Tax screen that you guys will see. For the rest of this, I'm going to go into a test environment that will allow us to dig into things a little deeper, because I can't log into anything in the production environment. So when you click on that, you're going to go to this registration screen. You'll see here I've already got things set up for an account I'll log in with later. But if you enter a username that someone already has, it's going to let you know. If you happen to do that the same day, then you're not going to find out until that gets processed in our nightly, and one of your registrations will get denied for that reason. Another thing that we run into, notice that it asks for first and last name here in the contact information. For the reason we have that is because of the information exchange agreement. If you register for a confidential account, which we will get into shortly, we need to confirm that you are the person that is registering, or that is listed on the agreement. So that's why we ask for both first and last name. Some of you have sent one name in, we automatically deny those registrations. As I said, you can choose whether you want confidential or basic access. To receive confidential access, you have to be listed. Well, first of all, your local government has to have an information exchange agreement with the Illinois Department of Revenue. And then secondly, you personally need to be listed as an authorized individual on that agreement. If you either do not have an agreement or you aren't listed on it, you need to choose basic. That means you'll have access to most of the items in My Local Tax, but you won't have all of the access to ordering the confidential reports and some other functions that we will go into once I get logged in. You can see there's a link here that explains to you what the difference is. It seems like a lot of people automatically register for confidential access, and we then have to deny those registrations. We also get questions about, so this account I'm setting up is for Springfield. You don't need both of these numbers. You only need to enter one or the other. And there is a help link over here to the right that explains to you where you can find that information. You don't need to contact LTAD to ask for your ordinance location number or your local taxing district number. We explain here where you can find that information. Now, before I click next, I also want to point out there is nowhere on this screen where you create a password. Uh, a lot of people have login problems the first time they log on. They say it won't accept their password. You haven't created one yet. That's why it hasn't accepted your password. Once we approve your account, this is the email that you will receive. You can see on here that the email, actually, it's not up on the screen. Sorry. Hold on one moment, please. I need to change what I'm sharing with you. I knew that wouldn't go smoothly rotating between different items. Sorry about that. So this is the email that you receive once your account has been created. And you can notice in here, I've got it highlighted, and your password is the letter ID from the letter that we will send regarding your My Local Tax account. We mail that out, so you will, once you register, you're going to have to wait a couple days until that letter comes in the mail so you can log in. We do this for security purposes. You are, public officials, people know your name. Potentially someone could use that information to create their own logon. We don't want someone having confidential information that they aren't entitled to. That's why this letter is mailed. It goes to the local government office, and it actually says on the letter, which I will pull that up here in a second, but it shows you, or tells you if someone's name, or if you didn't request the account, that you need to let us know. So here is what that letter looks like when it comes in the mail. This is the account I just set up. And like I said, it says right here, username chosen upon submission and the letter ID printed on this letter to log on. It says it right here. It's also at the top. The other thing is with this that frequently we get questions about the forgot username or password function not working. And that is because until you have established your own password, once you've logged in, you can't get back to the proper screen. I'm sorry. Okay, it's back on the screen now. All right, so back to the logon screen. This forgot username or password will not work until you have set up your password, which will happen the first time you log on using the letter ID from that activation letter. There's also, in this new version of My Local Tax, there is an authentication option the first time you log on. And so I'm going to log in here using that letter ID that we just discussed. So now you can see you're given the option of the two-step verification either occurring through an authentication app or an email. We get questions about how to use the authentication app. This is a third-party, something you can download from your app store. There's multiple versions of it. If you don't know how to use it, don't choose that option. Choose to receive the code by email instead, and then it will send you a security code to use. Now, once again, I'm in a test environment, so I can just automatically populate that for my purposes now. And I'm logged in. Now you have to create your own password. And it tells you what the various requirements are on there. So at this point, the forgot username and password function will work. So you're now logged in to My Local Tax. We've got, in this version, an upgrade from the previous version of this. We've got some common functions over here for each account type. We've got the allocation account, the business district account. If you have multiple business districts, there will be multiple business districts listed there, and then also your PPRT account. You can also see that for each type, there's a view more account options choice there. Obviously, not everything you can do is listed here on the main page. Another thing that we frequently get questions about, the Action Center. If you have any unread messages or unread emails or unread letters, sorry, they will be here. If you've read everything, then there's a different place to get to those messages and those letters. Also, you can see on here that it says, well, first of all, I logged in with Springfield. I'm not going to show anybody any confidential information here, but it says City Clerk of Springfield. The city clerk address and name is uh, the default address in our system. So regardless of if you're the treasurer, the mayor, the clerk, whatever your role is, when you log on, it's going to say city clerk or county clerk up here in the corner. It's not going to list your actual job title. Also, the functions are not different dependent on what your role is. The treasurer, the clerk, all of you you see the same options. So if certain items are the clerk's responsibility, like I think a lot of people, the clerk does the tax location verification process. The treasurer will also have the ability to do that. We don't separate out uh, the messages for, okay, this is a clerk function, so we're going to send the letter only to the clerk. Everyone's going to get that. That's up for you internally to determine who does what. So as I said, this Action Center is not going to have the alert that you have unread items if everything's read. But if you go to more, you can see, you can view your letters, you can send a message, you can view messages all from here. That's also when you order a taxpayer listing or an allocation remittance report. Once you've read it, you can go here to view messages, and you can find the old reports that you've ordered. They will be kept here. You can see here messages older than 12 months you have to search for, but they will be in there. They can be located. So I think that kind of takes you through most of the basics. I want to go into some of the more regularly used functions in here and go through some things we frequently get questions about, just to try to help everyone out. One thing I will say, you should receive an email anytime we send a new message. Uh, you should receive an email that lets you know you have either a new message or a new letter in your account. When we were creating My Local Tax, I never would have guessed how rarely people read those messages. We thought it would be a good way to communicate with all of you and get information out, but a lot of you do not read those. I would recommend that when you get that message from us that you have a new, or when you get the email from us that you have a new message in your account, please go read it. We have developed a quarterly newsletter now that is sent out via My Local Tax message with a link to our website. I'll show you shortly where we can find it on our website. And a lot of relevant information is included in those newsletters. I think we've probably gotten at least 100 emails asking why the income tax and or PPRT disbursements have been so high lately. That was actually covered in our April newsletter. And every time I answer those emails, I say from our April newsletter, and out of those 100 or so emails we've gotten, I think 2 people asked me how to get the newsletter. So we really recommend that you get the newsletter, that you read the messages you receive through My Local Tax, and that we'll also go when we get to the website. There's now a Gov Delivery messaging service where you get a text and or email whenever um, for the topics that you subscribe to. We don't use that often, but it does get used. It's a good way for you to keep up to date on information that we are trying to share with you. Another message that comes through that not many people read: you have to recertify your information exchange agreement annually. If you don't do it timely, your confidential accounts in My Local Tax are locked out. When you go to log on, it's going to say that your profile has been deleted. We send a message through My Local Tax roughly 30 days before your recertification date to let you know that it's time to recertify. There's also a link in that message to the document that you need to complete to do the recertification. If you read those messages, you won't get locked out of your account for not recertifying. The other thing you can do to make sure you recertify timely, my staff is now, if it's a new agreement, we have a form letter that we mail you. If it's an existing agreement that is just recertified, we are now starting to contact you to say that you've been recertified. But if you would set a reminder on your calendar, basically whenever you send that information to us to remind you in a year or whatever, you can do that. But like I said, we do send that message through My Local Tax to let you know uh, that it's time to do that. But you have to read those messages uh, for that to pay off for you. There was another thing. So the legislature passed a new statute that required the Department of Revenue to send on an annual basis to allow local governments to review your jurisdictional boundaries. We mailed a bulletin to everyone in January about that, and then a My Local Tax message was sent on February 1st. Per the statute, we have to do that on February 1st every year. So we mailed out, there's roughly 1,400 local governments in the state. We mailed that out to all of them. We received about 40 responses to that. So we are trying to help you with this information. We're giving you a chance to verify that the information we have for you is correct. That's the same with the monthly TLV letters that we send you, which we'll get into. So please, in February 2023, you will receive that link again. Please review those boundaries, make sure they are correct. That has an impact on the tax disbursements that you will potentially could receive from us if a boundary is not correct. So once again, read those messages that we send you, because that will be covered in a My Local Tax message. So some of the common functions in My Local Tax, like I said, they're listed here. Request allocation remittance report for those of you that are looking for specific tax revenue from a business. You can look at this. You can order this report. This is only there for people with confidential access. It's that you have the option of ordering either 1, 3, or 12 month reports. You can see in the text here that if you choose a 3 or 12-month report, the period that you select will be the last month of the report. And we only send you data going back 3 years. So anything older than that, you won't be able to order on here, and we don't share that information with you. Uh, so if we're getting towards the end of that 3-year period, you may want to order that soon. And like I said, those remittance reports will stay linked in the message that we send you in your My Local Tax account. So you can always go back and refer to those if you don't save them to your own computer. Also, you can request a taxpayer listing report. We send these out annually based on the zone of the state that you're in. Each month is for a different zone. And Those are also sent through My Local Tax. If you don't have a My Local Tax account, you can contact us and we will email you that file, but we prefer that everyone register for a My Local Tax account. Now, when you request a taxpayer listing report, this will give you a list of all active registered businesses within your jurisdiction. You can choose to receive an automobile rental tax report, a sales tax report, or a telecom report. The other thing you can do is you can actually order these reports for not only yourself, but also any jurisdiction that is contiguous to yours. So any bordering municipality, the unincorporated portion of the county that you're in, things like that. So you can order multiple reports. This will all come via My Local Tax message to you. Both the taxpayer listing and the allocation remittance report, those requests are processed in our nightly process, so you will receive those the next business day. If you are logging in expecting to request a report for your board meeting that night, you won't be able to get it. There's no way for us to get that report to you that day. So you need to request your report at least the day before you're going to need that information. We also receive a lot of questions about why there are now so many businesses on the taxpayer listing, and that is because of leveling the playing field. Those online retailers and remote retailers that sell items to customers in Illinois are now registering their locations. So that's why there's been an explosion uh, of businesses listed on your taxpayer listing. We have a presentation on our website about how to uh, use those reports in the era of leveling the playing field. But basically, the key thing you need to look at is for the business type. If it says it's a CL, which is for changing location. That is probably one of those online retailers that doesn't have a physical presence in your jurisdiction. Now, we have two different ways for you to respond to the monthly tax location verification letter, or TLV letter, that we send you. The respond to tax location verification function is for items on your letter that are under the um, section that says verified by LTAD. Each month, my staff is reviewing all new and reinstated businesses that register with the Illinois Department of Revenue, and they are using our GIS, and they're also using your county's property tax records to determine the correct jurisdiction um, for those businesses. Now I'm going to bring up, I wanted to find an account that had some items for us to look at in My Local Tax. So this is Taylorville's tax location verification letter from April of 2022. Now the date of your letter, these go out the 15th every month or the next business day. And for instance, the April letter is for business activity that occurred in March. So when you log in to our system, you're going to want to choose the March period. But you can see here, I mentioned, so discontinued, or the discontinued section, or the new reinstated section, you're going to use the verify tax locations function in My Local Tax. We'll get back to that in a second. But I mentioned for the respond to, there's the section that says verified by Local Tax Allocation Division, LTAD. And these are businesses, like I said, that we have used property tax records and GIS to determine their proper jurisdiction. So like I said, this is the April letter, so I will need to select the March period. The other thing I will say, if there's nothing on the period you're checking, you can, check some of these other ones just to make sure there's nothing there as well. Oh, well, that's not what was supposed to happen. Let me check April. I just set this up yesterday and now they're not there. Okay. Oh, that's because I was in the Springfield account I just created. So respond to tax location verification. It logged me out. This never goes as smoothly as I would like it to. I apologize for that. So now I'm in the Taylorville account. I just showed you their April letter. Like I said, there are some items in the verified by LTAD section. So we would go to respond to tax location verification. And it was the April letter, which is for the March period. So those items should be here. Now, what you do with these, they are defaulted to say that you agree. Basically, you review these and you either, like I said, it's defaulted to agree. If you disagree, this will get shifted to another section that you then can provide us more information. But assuming that you agree with these, you would just click next. These are all marked as agree, and then you would submit, and then that information goes back to us. You get a confirmation for anything that you do in My Local Tax, and we can search that confirmation number. So you may want to print and save those records. Now, if you would have disagreed with anything on that report, or if you have anything that's listed as new reinstated or discontinued, you use the verify tax locations function. Now, I previously also on this, there's a place for an account number. You only need to use that if you are searching for a specific business. You do not have to put anything in this field. If you put something in that field, it will only search for that business and you won't get any other results. So most of the time you're going to want to leave that blank. Okay, so this is one that you need to select to verify. This was on their verified by LTAD letter, and just to show you what happens, I clicked yesterday that I disagreed, so this would be here. So it asks, is this address within your corporate limits? You can choose yes or no. Is this address within Christian County? Taylorville is in Christian County, so you would choose yes on that as well. But if any of that is no, if the answer to any of that is no, this text box down here becomes required, and you need to provide, you can give us information on if you know what jurisdiction that belongs to. You should type it in there. The other thing is, one thing we want to talk about is this process and what we need you to do with it. The primary focus of tax location verification is the address. So right here, business address 1130 West Rich Street in Taylorville. When you review this, the first question you need to ask yourself is that in our jurisdiction? That's 90% of what we're trying to do here. It seems like a lot of you get too hung up on the name of the business. If someone has registered for a license with the Department of Revenue, they will be listed here. It doesn't mean that they've actually started operations. It doesn't mean that they ever will, for that matter, but they have gotten a sales tax license from the Illinois Department of Revenue. So they are listed here. They are not required to give us their DBA. So it's possible that if this DBA was blank here, it's possible you know that business as a different name than what's listed here. But they, like I said, they don't have to give us the DBA. The important thing is the address. If the address is registered correctly, you're going to see tax revenue from that business. We get a lot of responses on this that you haven't received, you have a local business license and you don't have a local business license on file for this business. The Department of Revenue is not concerned with that. That is an issue for you to handle internally with that business. They have registered with us. They are currently set up, if they're on this list, they're currently set up to generate tax revenue for you. So we need to make sure that tax revenue goes to the right place. So it is not important to us whether or not they have a local business license with you. We also frequently get comments on this that say this is a home-based business. Home-based businesses generate tax revenue for you as well. So once again, we're not concerned about if it's a home-based business or an online business or anything like that. We're concerned about whether or not this business, this address is within your taxing jurisdiction. Another thing that we want you to keep an eye out for is that the business address is actually where they're doing business. This is obviously easier to do in smaller communities than in larger ones, but sometimes the businesses will get confused. They will set their mailing address up as their business address incorrectly, and that could play a role in the jurisdiction on this. So if, we had a question a year or so ago, somebody wasn't seeing business district revenue from a restaurant, but they were in their jurisdiction, it was because they had their business address set up as their home address, their mailing address, their home address, and that moved that business out of their business district. So they were generating sales tax revenue by reporting their sales at that address, but they were not generating business district revenue. So you need to, if possible, verify that the business address listed here is actually the address they're doing business at. And if it's not, please let us know. Now, one thing, I'm going to go back for the once again, this is in the verified tax location section for the discontinued businesses. This is for businesses that have either they have gone out of business and they've canceled their license with the Department of Revenue, or they may have made adjustments to their business license. So before you respond to us to let us know that a business is still doing business in your jurisdiction, please check. In the case of some of these businesses listed here on the Taylorville one, they are also in the verified by LTAD section. These businesses were added to their business district, and that changed their registration, which which also caused them to show up on this discontinued list. So please make sure, number one, that the business that's listed as discontinued isn't also listed on the current letter under new reinstated or verified by LTAD or one of your recent ones. A good way to do this is if you order a taxpayer listing, like I said, that shows you every active business in your jurisdiction. If the business is still listed on there, then you're still receiving tax revenue from them. So when you see this discontinued list, you may need to do a little research on your end instead of contacting us just saying, this is still in business, because we may know that, but for whatever adjustment was made to their registration, they had to show up as discontinued on here. But this is the screen you see. The only thing you do on this is you can comment, and a comment is required. So even if that the business has closed, you can just put okay there. You don't need to tell us it's closed, because that's why it's on the discontinued list. We're alerting you that it's been closed. So just type information into that comment bar. If you agree with us, there's very little that you need to put there. If you disagree with us, you may need to give us some more information so we can check into it on our end. But we would appreciate it if you would do some research using the taxpayer listing on your end first before contacting us that the business is still operating. Another reason you may see things on the discontinued list is that service businesses do not need to report sales tax. They don't need a sales tax account. Things like hair salons and car repair shops, those are service businesses. They do not charge sales tax on their bill, so they do not need that license. So you may look at that and say, oh, well, this business is still operating in our town. They don't need a sales tax license, so it's fine that they are on the discontinued list. Now, if they sell items where they should be collecting sales tax, like if that hair salon sells shampoo, conditioner, other hair products, they would need to charge sales tax on those items. So you should see them on your allocation remittance report. So as far as that allocation remittance report, like I said, that includes confidential information. So I'm not going to pull that up for any of these jurisdictions that I've got an account set up for right now, but that will give you every business in your jurisdiction that generates sales tax revenue from you. I do want to give you a couple notes though on those reports. Number one, disbursements are a 4-month cycle. January sales are reported to the Department of Revenue in February. They're processed in March and then allocated in April. If you want to order a report to view January sales, you would need to order the February allocation period report. That will give you January sales. That will be the money that you received in April. So I do want to point that out. Another thing is that if a monthly filer files their return late, they will show up on your allocation report as a 0. And then the next month, assuming the next month's return is filed timely, you would receive your allocation for both periods in that same month as one lump sum. If you need a breakdown of which period that lump sum is from, you can contact us and we can tell you how much is from, for instance, January and how much is from February. The reason I tell you that is if you see on your allocation remittance report a 0 for someone for 1 month, please wait and check the next month as well before you contact us to let us know that they're a non-filer, because it's possible they just got that return in a couple days late, and that's going to push their disbursement back to you by 1 month. So if there's a 0 multiple months in a row, then yes, please contact us. We need to look into that. The other thing is there are quarterly filers and monthly or annual filers as well. So try to look at, if you order a 12-month report, if you can see that it's somebody that's filing quarterly, you can tell that by how often you're seeing revenue from them. Once again, you don't need to contact us if you see zeros for a couple months and then you receive money in the fourth month or in the third month, because that's a quarterly filer. So that's how that should work. Same thing with annual. You may have to, obviously you would have to wait a little bit in that case to see if you're receiving money from them. Now there's not a lot of annual filers, so you may want to go ahead and follow up with us sooner in that case. Also, the allocation amount on the report, if you total up the column for a given period, it does not include interest nor the administrative fee that we took if it is a tax type that there is an admin fee for. So it will not match exactly the amount that you receive from us. That is why it won't match exactly. You'll receive a separate file for each tax type that you have. If you have, obviously everyone would get MT for municipal tax. If you impose a home rule or a non-home rule tax, if you have municipal cannabis tax, municipal motor fuel, county motor fuel, you would not get a report for that. You would get a separate report. A business district, there's a separate allocation remittance report for each tax type. It would all come in the same message, but there would be multiple files. Unfortunately, still, if you're one of the municipalities that falls in multiple counties, you're going to need to create an account for each portion of your municipality, each county that you're in. Aurora is in 4 counties, so an Aurora My Local Tax user would need 4 separate accounts. And the way you distinguish that is on that registration screen where you input your ordinance location number. There's a different number for each county of your multi-county municipality. But you would need to order those reports separately in each account. We are working on getting that updated so you multi-county munis can just order one report and have one account, but we haven't been able to get that done yet. But we are working on that, along with some other updates that we're working on. And like I said before, this is a report that runs nightly, so you need to wait until the next business day before you get that report. Don't wait until the day you need it to order that report. Like I said, with the taxpayer listing, it's all businesses that are active with a site registered in your jurisdiction the day you order it. The addresses, you may see some non-local addresses. Those are typically corporate addresses for changing locations. Like we talked about before, leveling the playing field has caused online retailers, remote retailers, to register locations in your jurisdiction. There's also some like Mary Kay type businesses, Tupperware. They are typically listed as changing locations. They would have been on your report as a changing location well before before leveling the playing field came to be. And the other thing, changing locations do not appear on your monthly tax location verification letter. So if a business incorrectly registers as a permanent location instead of a changing location for an online business, that's going to show up on your report, and it will then it would have the address they ship to as their business address. So we've gotten some questions from some local governments where they've said, there's no business at this address. It's just where one of your citizens ordered a product online that shipped from out of state, and that business incorrectly registered as a uh, permanent location instead of a changing location. That doesn't change the amount of tax you would receive on that transaction at all. It's just that it may incorrectly show up on your tax location verification letter. This report is also a good way if you have a local business license or if you're establishing a business district, you can order the taxpayer listing and get a list of all, like I said, all registered businesses within your jurisdiction. You can use that to know who you need to talk to about applying for your local business license and or when setting up your business district, that you may want to make sure to include those addresses in your business district. Now, I do want to show you, like I said, there are some other more account options here. If you go into this, you can enter or amend rebate sharing agreements. You are required by statute, if you have a rebate sharing agreement with a business in your jurisdiction, that has to be reported to the Illinois Department of Revenue. This is how you do that. The functions from the previous page are still listed here: the allocation remittance report, taxpayer listing report, respond to and verify tax locations. You can search for rebate sharing agreements if you want to see if you've already filed something with us. That's how you do that. Now, this is new in the fall when we updated My Local Tax. If you have confidential account access in My Local Tax, you are now able to submit a certified copy of an ordinance or resolution, and you're also able to submit your reciprocal agreement. These are documents that we've needed signatures on before, that you've had to mail to us. You still need to mail us those. If you do not have My Local Tax, we need original signatures, so you'll have to mail them to us. But if you do have a confidential account, you can submit those via My Local Tax now, and then you would also receive, like I showed you before, when you submit something in My Local Tax, you get a confirmation number. So if you submit your new ordinance through My Local Tax, you'll get a confirmation number, and you'll know that we've received your ordinance and that we're going to begin the process to impose that new tax that you have enacted. So those options are all within the more account options. You can also see here view account periods. If you go into these periods, you can see this link here that says view allocations. That will show you the amount for each tax type that you received. And if it says that they're not available, which we just made the last of the June disbursements yesterday for the April period, so everything is available. The May period's not listed here yet, but if it says, information not available, it's because we haven't made those disbursements yet. But that's where you can dig in. If you want to see how much you received in a given tax type, you can do it through here. Here's another way to get into your account letters and your account messages, all from that more account options. Another thing, just in general, there's nothing that you're going to do in My Local Tax that is not reversible. You're not going to click a button that makes it so your local government no longer receives local tax allocations from us. So, if you're looking to do something, like I said, in the help tab, we have a tutorial, we have an FAQ, but there's not a lot in here. You can click around and look for things and typically find what you're looking for pretty quickly. Now, business districts, you can also request a business district taxpayer listing. This will give you a list of the addresses and businesses with business names within your business district. If you choose the view business district addresses, this just gives you a list of the addresses. You get that immediately. With the request business district taxpayer listing, that's another report that you would receive the next day. Verify business district addresses, we mail you an LGT5 when you set up new addresses in your business district. It's like the monthly TLV letter. You can respond to that in this function here. And once again, you have the view account options function, or more account options for business districts. And then PPRT, there's not really any information available in there except to send us a message uh, regarding your PPRT account. But those are, kind of a basic overview of everything that you can do in My Local Tax and kind of what we're looking for as far as a response um, from you when we get that. So before I move to our website, does anyone have any questions about My Local Tax, how to register for an account, how to um, order a specific report, or what to do with that report? Jeff, I see that you've got a question.
Hi, Alan. Yes, this is Jeff Martinovich from DuPage County. Um, you mentioned the level the playing field act on the reports, the allocation reports. Did you say there might be a code in there that shows which of these businesses are online businesses or don't have a physical presence
Yes, there's a
within the county?
column. There's a column that says business type, and typically it has a PL, which is for permanent location, or CL for changing location in that column. And a good indication for you would be that it has a CL there, and then for the address, it's going to have a non-local address there. I'm going to show you a PowerPoint on our website. Trevor Atkins and I spoke to the municipal treasurers last fall about leveling the playing field. And we've got that presentation. We just have the PowerPoint. We don't have our presentation recorded, but our PowerPoint is on the website, and that goes into more of a breakdown about how leveling the playing field has impacted both your taxpayer listing report and your allocation remittance report. So when I get to our website, I will show you guys where that is and the slides I'm talking about in that presentation.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, Gloria, I see your question here. If a business is listed as discontinued on the tax verification report and a new business for the same location is not listed on that same report, is there a chance that the new business for the location be listed on the next month's report? Yes, it could. If they didn't get their registration for the new business completed until the following month, it would be on the next month's report. Sometimes it would be on a previous month's report because they got things all set up for the new license before they discontinued their old one. So you may want to check some of the previous reports as well. Um, like I said, probably the easiest way to do it though, is to just order the taxpayer listing, because that gives you the current active businesses in your jurisdiction. But yeah, it may not be on the same report. It could be on either an earlier one or a more recent report. Okay, well, like I said, we'll have a Q&A session at the end as well. So if you have more My Local Tax questions, you can ask them then. But I'm sorry, we've got another one that came in. Carla asks, how do I find out whether residential addresses within our established business district boundaries have been submitted? You just need to reach out to us and ask. I should have mentioned that when I was talking about business districts. Because of leveling the playing field, uh, if someone if if someone's house is located within a business district and you have submitted that address to us as part of your business district, then a purchase they make online would also generate business district tax for you, not only sales tax. So and it's actually in the statute that all addresses within business district boundaries should be submitted. So for those of you with business districts that include residential areas, if you haven't already, you need to submit those residential addresses to us as well. And those would generate business district sales tax on purchases from remote retailers. And we are going to talk a little bit more later about business districts because we have some new upgrades coming to that process as well. But I think hopefully that answered your question. So, and how do we add those addresses? All you need to do is if the boundaries haven't changed, you just need to send us a list of your addresses and say that those addresses are within the existing boundaries and they need to be added to your business district. And you need to do that by the existing statutory deadlines. So for those to take effect January 1st of 2023, we need to receive those address lists by October 1st of 2022.
Alan, can I just ask, just to reconfirm, those are residents that are located in a business district that are making purchases online where the sales tax is captured?
Yes, that's correct. So yeah, if the online purchase generates sales tax revenue for your jurisdiction, which typically means that a resident of your city or your unincorporated part of the county orders something online, it ships from out of state to their address, then it is taxed at the destination rate. So any tax that your jurisdiction imposes at that address, meaning home rule, non-home rule, business district, county school facility tax, county public safety tax, things like that, any of those taxes would apply to that sale. Now, for the business district tax to apply to it, you need to give us that list of addresses. You need to provide the addresses to us. Typically in the past, you only gave us business addresses because those are the only things that would have generated business district tax revenue for you. But now, because of leveling the playing field, residential addresses can potentially generate that revenue for you as well.
Thank you.
You're welcome. If a food truck is located within our jurisdiction, possibly for a festival or longer, should any sales tax be provided to our city, or does this sales tax just go to their home-based address? That should go to your city. They should register. This is another type of business that would potentially register changing locations. If there's a food truck that drives around the area and goes to different cities, they should have a site registered at every place they do business at, and they should charge your local tax rate at each different location they operate at. So if you know of a food truck that you have there, the best way with all of this, if you order something from a business, whether it's a food truck, a changing location, if you order something online, or if you go into a brick and mortar store, look at your receipt, look at the sales tax rate that you were charged, and see if it's what your rate is. And if it's not, you need to contact us, please. If you can send us a copy of the receipt, that's even more information for us to use. So we would take that receipt, we would contact the business and say, hey, you're not charging the correct rate for this jurisdiction that you're operating in. We would ask them to amend prior returns and start filing correctly moving forward. But yes, please, food trucks, any of those. Now, if you have a fair, things like that, there's actually an event contact with the Department of Revenue to register those businesses and make sure that they charge the correct rate. But even if you have a local farmers market weekly in your jurisdiction, technically they should also be charging your local sales tax rate on their sales. So anybody that's doing business within your jurisdiction should be collecting your sales tax rate. Obviously, if they're selling merchandise, once again, this does not include service businesses and things like that. Okay, do we have any more My Local Tax questions before I move to our website and take you through our website? I'm not seeing any, so I'm going to go to the Illinois Department of Revenue homepage. And you can see here, well, first of all, since I've already signed up, it's not there. But when you go to our website the first time, there will be a pop-up that asks if you want to sign up for that Gov Delivery messaging that I mentioned. It's also available here at the bottom of the screen. Where is that at? Well, I thought it was available at the bottom of the screen, and now I don't see it. Maybe it's blocked by this. Nope. Okay, well, hopefully it pops up for you. If not, we can find a link. It's actually in our newsletters. There are links for registering for that service. Once again, we don't send a lot of messages in it, but it is helpful. Yes, Jeff. Did you have another question? I see the hand up. I didn't know if that was from your last one.
Nope, no question right now. Sorry about that.
Okay, sorry about that. So if you're on the Department of Revenue website, you can go to this Information for drop down and go to local governments. You may have seen when I was scrolling through the page, there's also a link there for it. So local governments, and then you go to local tax allocation. And this is the LTAD website. We have a lot of information here that I'm going to go through. I would recommend that you bookmark this page. Also, you can see a My Local Tax logo here. That will take you to the logon screen for My Local Tax. That will make sure that you are at MLT and not My Tax or My Deck or anywhere else. So you can see here that we've got a most frequently used links section. Contacts, this is just our contact information. If you mail us something, please make sure you use this mail code, this 3-500. That gets the mail directly to us instead of going who knows where throughout the building, which would take longer to get to us. We still, someone is in the office every day, but we still have a lot of staff working remotely. So the best way to get us is through email. Our phone number here, there is a voicemail set up at that line. So if someone doesn't answer, the voicemail gets emailed to us. You will be responded to. But like I said, the email is probably the best way to contact us. There's also some contact information here. If you have questions about video gaming, charitable games, property tax, motor fuel distributions are done by IDOT, so those questions are there. If you want to set up for direct deposit, which we recommend, the comptroller's office does that. Their contact information is here. So that's on our most frequently used links at the contacts section. You can see here, FY 2022 estimate for PPRT. We post the new estimate in early August. So you won't need to email us to ask when the estimate is going to be posted. It will be posted right here. That will be changed to say FY 2023. The other thing, before it gets posted, we get a lot of emails asking, if we know, is the estimate going to still be as high as the disbursements have been this month? Or, we don't see that information until a couple days before it gets posted to our website. And the only reason there's any time lapse at all in there is because it takes a couple days to get everything approved and posted and things like that. So we're not, number one, we don't have the information, but number two, we're not going to give you an estimate of the estimate. We're going to post that estimate to the page in early August when we get it, and the information explaining the estimate will be included with that. If you go into that, it gives you the reason for why our department came up with the number that they did. There's also the point in here, these numbers are an estimate based on best available data. Actual amount may vary. If we pay you more than the estimate, we don't ask for money back. If we pay you less than the estimate, we get questions all the time. Well, I think we've only come in under the estimate once since I've been in this role, but people were asking how we were going to make you whole, and that it's just an estimate. So you won't get anything from us in that regard. I understand that you guys use that information for budgeting purposes. I understand not everyone is on the same fiscal year as we are, so posting in early August isn't necessarily an ideal time for some of you, but that is when we get the information, and unfortunately, that's the only time it will be posted there. This monthly disbursement link, you can go into each tax type, and this has spreadsheets about the with distribution information for each tax type for each local government that we disperse money to. Here's another link to My Local Tax to make sure you get to the right place. This is a document, this PTax 1002. This is more information about taxpayer listings and tax location verification. This does need to be updated somewhat, and I'm working on that, but this will give you a lot more information about, how things are, what you're seeing on your taxpayer listing, and what you're seeing on your monthly TLV letter. So I would recommend reading that document. Like I said, we do need to make some minor updates to it, but the general thought is still correct. Here's a link to our tax rate database. Different tax types are listed here, but for sales tax, if you want to make sure we've got a rate correct for you, for leveling the playing field for purposes, we've added a search by address function here. You may want to check if there's a certain address on there that is on your border, you can look it up there. Or if just the general rate for your local government, you can use that function as well. So those are what's from the most frequently used links. This next section is distribution information. Some of these were already included in the, oh, sorry, I passed some things up. Research and statistics, that gets into the SIC report is where you can find this. There's some other things here as well. And then tax rate changes. This takes you to a list of informational bulletins when we post your rates that are changing. Either you've imposed a new tax or whatever the case may be there. This distribution information section, monthly detailed disbursement amounts, that just takes you to that screen again where you can get the spreadsheets of the distributions of a given month or given fiscal year. This tax types distributed to local government section, I would recommend looking at this. This gives you information on each tax type that we collect and distribute. If you are interested, say, in imposing a non-home rule sales tax, you can click on this and it will give you, more information about what you need to do to establish that tax, whether or not voter approval is required, what you need to send us, and the deadline you need to send it to us. All that information is contained on this page for each tax type. So if you're looking for more information about imposing a new tax, this is the place to go, because it will answer probably almost all, if not all, of your questions. Changes in disbursements. This is for information on annexations and census and incorporations. And for annexations, please report those to the Department of Revenue when they happen. We also recommend that the annexation take effect on the first of a subsequent month instead of passing the annexation so it takes effect immediately, because that means, if your city council meeting is today on June 15th, and at tonight's meeting you vote and approve an annexation, any business on that land, as if you make it effective immediately, technically they should change their tax rate as soon as you vote yes and it passes. At a minimum, they, if it's not an overnight business or something that's open at night, they would need to update their rate that next morning when they open. Obviously, that's a short turnaround time, so that's why we recommend that you do that, make it effective the first of the month, just because that makes it easier. You're required by statute to contact any impacted retailers. So that gives you more time to do that. And it also gives them time to update their systems to charge the correct tax rate. And it gives us time to get everything set up on our end as well. You're not required to do it on the 1st, but it just makes it easier for everyone involved. And also, like I said, please submit those annexations to us. We don't make that update if you don't send us the information. I will bring up census really quick. There's some discussion that the Illinois count was not correct. We base your population numbers and therefore your population-based disbursements off of the certified figures we receive from the Secretary of State's office. If there's a change made to the census, we won't be changing anything on our end unless and until the Secretary of State sends us a new certified population. So I know that's in the news right now. I just wanted to get that information out to you. If and when that happens, we will send a message via Gov Delivery. We will also include it in whatever the next quarterly newsletter would be. And then this PIO 114, this is a new document that was just created that kind of takes you through visually how sales and use taxes are distributed. So you may want to refer to that document at some point as well. Now this resources section, this is really, I wanted to make a point of showing you this information. I mentioned the sales tax jurisdiction boundary verification map. There's some links in here to the bulletin that we did and a help document. Like I said, you will do this again. We'll send out a new link on February 1st, 2023. But this is information about the 2022 one. If you did not reply to the one this year, you may want to start looking into this and see what you'll need to do next year. Quarterly local government newsletter. Like I said, it's sent out via My Local Tax message, but you can go and review any of the previous newsletters here. Like I said, it has information in there about how to sign up for the Gov Delivery messaging service. And you can also see the other topics we've covered. We did not do one in July last year. Typically, it's going to be January, April, July, and October. Last year when we came up with the idea, we couldn't get it out until May. And then since we had one in May and then the workshop in June, we didn't do one in July. But there is going to be a July newsletter. You'll be able to find it here if you don't have My Local Tax, or if you're one of the people that don't read your My Local Tax messages when you get them. Information exchange agreements, sample ordinances, sample ballot questions. If you're imposing a tax that requires a ballot question, we've got a template here for you to use. We've got templates here for the various tax types for sample ordinances. I mentioned information exchange agreements, the documents you need to create one of those, they're all here. Also, more information about all of these documents. Everything can be found here. This is a good place to look. Our legal division, anytime you send us an ordinance, it's reviewed by the legal division and they will contact you if anything needs corrected on it. If you use the template they've already created that's found here, there's much less of a chance that they're going to need you to fix something on that ordinance. So please make use of that page. We think it's a good resource for you. Here's that another link to the TLV information. I mentioned the P-Tax document before. There's some more annual taxpayer listing, address list information, what you do to review it, and the TLV process. Once again, some of these documents need some minor updates, but the general thought is still correct on those documents. Rebate sharing FAQs. If you've got any questions about rebate sharing agreements, you can find that information here. Local government workshops. This is where you can find, obviously this year we're just doing the one virtual one that's occurring right now. In the future, we may get back out. I think we will always do at least one of our workshops each year virtually, record it and post it to our website. But I think we would like to start getting back out around the state and meeting with people face to face. So if your city or your county would be interested in potentially hosting a local government workshop, you can contact us. We try to hold them at centrally, not necessarily centrally located, but in a location where multiple local government officials would have an easy short trip to. So if you live in one of the corners of the state, it may not be as likely for us to host a workshop or have a workshop at your location, but we do want to get back to getting out with around the state and meeting with you all face to face again. Electronic deposit, once again, we recommend that you receive your funds via electronic deposit and not paper check. Whether you're if you're in Illinois funds, you need to go through the treasurer's office. If otherwise, for direct deposit, there's a link for the comptroller's website as well. We cannot set up direct deposit for you. I already showed you the contact link in the frequently used links. There it is again. Links to local official organizations. We try to communicate with the various county clerks, city clerks, municipal treasurers, county treasurers, IML, IGFOA, all those organizations. We try to be in communication with them. We contacted all of them to alert their memberships about this workshop. We frequently get contacted by them to speak at your various meetings. We are more than willing to do that. So if you need a speaker at one of your conferences and you need more information, you want somebody to talk about local government, local tax allocations, please send us an invite, and if possible, we will go speak at your conference. And for those of you that don't already belong to one of those, you can use that link to see what's out there and possibly join one or more of those if you're interested. Now, what I would say is probably the most important link on our website is this training materials for local government officials link. That's where this workshop will be posted once it's recorded and ready to post. You can see that we've got last year's local government workshop here. For any of you that were looking for our typical workshop where we go through each tax type and everything, more detailed information on each tax type, you can watch last year's video. We wanted to kind of switch things up a little bit this year. We will probably get back to something more like that workshop next year. But like I said, this one, that is posted. We've got a page with the timestamp. So if you're looking for a certain topic, you can go right to that point in the presentation. We've also got this presentation handout is our PowerPoint from last year. And then there was a section on My Local Tax Frequently Asked Questions. So that PowerPoint is there as well. The My Local Tax tutorial I showed you in the Help tab in My Local Tax, it takes you to this document. Same thing with the Frequently Asked Questions in the Help tab. Now, I mentioned the Leveling the Playing Field presentation that we did for the municipal treasurers and also for the metro managers. That is linked here. I will go ahead and go to that just because I said there were some sections. I'm scrolling through some of this, but what I wanted to make a point of is that this Decoding MLT report section. This starts on page 15 of this document. Taxpayer listings, we provide a list annually, or you can order one at any time through My Local Tax. Look for changing locations or CL on the taxpayer listing in the type column. And these reports will not provide you with an exact breakdown of what is, an online retailer versus brick and mortar, because of direct sales companies such as Mary Kay and Tupperware that I mentioned before. They may have already existed in your jurisdiction. So not all changing locations or online retailers new to your report. But here's and then decoding the allocation remittance report. Like I said before, if you have confidential access, you can request an allocation remittance report. You can look for those changing locations again. Also in the business name column, some of the entries say jurisdiction destination. That's a good cue for you that it is an online retailer. And the first allocation period to reflect leveling the playing field was February of 2021. Changing location businesses with zero tax revenue prior to that period that began to generate revenue with the 221 period can be assumed to be online retailers as well. Obviously, none of this is going to be 100% an accurate way for you to determine online versus local sales. And the reason for that is they all file the same sales tax return. So there's not a good way for us to give you a perfect breakdown of what is a remote retailer and what is a local business. So that's why I keep saying that it's not exact. Now here's a taxpayer listing example that we used in those presentations. This is for Schaumburg. There's nothing confidential on here. You can see in this type column, there's some CLs for changing locations, some PLs for permanent locations. It's got the business names, the DBAs. Like I said, if it's not a local address and it's a changing location, it's a good sign for you that it may be an online retailer. But Mary Kay is listed here. Like I said, Mary Kay was probably already on Schaumburg's taxpayer listing before leveling the playing field came to be. Now this allocation remittance report example, this would be confidential information, but this is all made up, so we're not releasing anything to you that we shouldn't be. But you can see ABC company changing location. It had basically the same remittance amount each month. So that's probably an existing business, maybe like Mary Kay, the direct sales companies that was already in your business. This changing location, the first time you received money from them was in February of 2021. Like I said on a previous slide, that's the first time we allocated revenue from leveling the playing field. So this would be a good cue to you. The zeros for November and December of 2020 and January of 2021, that's a good sign to you that this is a business that is now reporting to you because of leveling the playing field. You know, this is a permanent location, so that's a brick and mortar within your jurisdiction. And then I mentioned on a previous slide that sometimes under business name, it will have, you know, the jurisdiction, destination, and a changing location. So once again, this is one that, although they didn't start reporting until June. There's a question, what does TL mean on the report? That is for a temporary location. You don't see those as much anymore, but like a holiday kiosk that gets set up in the mall around Christmas time, that would probably be on your report as a temporary location, just something that is only open for a short time, and then they're back out of business. So something like a holiday kiosk would show up as a temporary location on your report. But many of those are also file as CLs now as changing locations. So those are the examples of how leveling the playing field affected your reports that I mentioned earlier. Once again, that is in this leveling the playing field presentation link. I don't want to go through that, that whole presentation or that whole PowerPoint right now. But that's where you can find that if you do want more information about leveling the playing field and how that has impacted your jurisdiction. This 2022 local taxing district informational handout, this is basically more for townships and PPRT districts, not municipalities and counties. We put that together just because sometimes those PPRT districts, they register for the workshop and I let them know that there's not much that we discussed that's relevant for them. So we put that document together for them. That's probably not going to be anything that you need to look at. All of the information there was included in the 2021 workshop presentation. Trevor and I also spoke at a workshop earlier this year where we discussed business districts, and our presentation, once again, just our PowerPoint, not the presentation, can be found at this link where you can get more information about business districts. Our 2019 local government workshop, we had a lot of workshops that year, and that was right when we first introduced My Local Tax. So we created instructional videos at that time. Those are still linked on our page. They are for the old version of My Local Tax. So some things have changed slightly since these videos were made. You can still probably get the basic idea of what you need if you want to get more information about one of those topics. We do intend on, once all the updates are finished being made to My Local Tax, we do intend on creating new instructional videos. But like I said, there is the tutorial that's already out there and the FAQ that will probably answer most of your questions, or we're here to answer questions for you. But there's also these older videos that may be able to help you as well. And then once again, we've got our contact information here. The mail code is very, very important if you're mailing us something. I just want to keep pointing that out. So like I said, there's a lot of very good, useful information on this link on this page. If you have other employees in your office that you feel need to see some of these things, specifically last year's workshop, or if you have a new treasurer or a new clerk get elected, it would probably be good for them to look back over, especially last year's workshop, because we go through the basics of every tax type and what LTAD does and where your revenue comes from. So that's a good general information for any new employee, or even, you know, an experienced employee to look at and get more information about what we do and how we impact your budgets. I guess that's a good time to say that for fiscal year 2022, we just set a new record for amount allocated to local governments. Some of that can be chalked up to leveling the playing field. Some can be just on various national and state legislative changes with income tax filing and things like that. But we distributed $14.4 billion this year. Last year we were a little over 10 billion, so we went up by basically $4 billion this fiscal year. Like I said, that was a new record. So hopefully all of your local governments are flush with money right now, and you're able to do everything that your constituents are asking for. We don't know, like I said, we don't know if that's going to continue to stay at that level, but we have been increasing every year lately. So hopefully for your sake, that continues to happen. I guess this will be where I plug once again. If somebody was sending me, if I was getting a portion of $14.4 billion, I would make sure to read every informational bulletin and every message they sent me, just to make sure I was getting all of the money I was entitled to. So please, when you get an email that you have a new message in your My Local Tax account, please read it. Please read the quarterly newsletters. Please read the informational bulletins we send out. Please subscribe to the Gov Delivery messaging service, because those things, that's where we get things out to you, like the annual jurisdictional boundary review process and things like that. So items that directly impact the amount of allocations you're receiving are what we try to send you information about. So it's in your best interest to read those whenever we send them to you. Does anybody have any questions about anything on our website before I stop sharing my screen? Did I say there's a place to submit businesses not listed as sales tax payers? Uh, if you are not seeing a business on your report that you feel like you should see sales tax revenue from, please email us, please call us, whichever method you My Local Tax message, however you want to contact us, please send that information to us and provide as much information as possible. We get a lot of messages that say, like, who do I talk to if we're not getting tax revenue from a business? If it's not us that you talk to, which 99% of the time it is us, but whoever you talk to is going to need to know the name of the business, the account ID of the business if you have it, the address of the business. Just as much information as you have, please provide it. Like I said before, if you shop somewhere and you have your receipt and you calculate the tax rate and realize that it's incorrect, please submit that receipt to us as well, so we have that to use as well. But any information you can give us, like I said, email, phone, mail, My Local Tax message, however you want to contact us, please get us that information. I also want to point out, you should not go to that business yourself. That is a function that the Illinois Department of Revenue handles. So send the information to us and we will contact the business. You should not go talk to them yourself. So submit that to us. I'm going to go ahead and I don't think anybody has any other questions about the website. So I'm just going to go back to this full screen. So we've been through My Local Tax. We've been through our website. A few other things I wanted to talk about. First of all, are the any upcoming legislation or recently passed legislation that impacts local governments. First of all, a lot of you are concerned about the 1% grocery tax suspension that takes effect July 1st. That is going to be suspended for the entire fiscal year of 2023. So that's July 1st, 2022 through June 30th, 2023. We have suspended the 1% grocery tax. That 1% grocery tax is allocated to local governments. So technically you would lose out on that revenue, but it was stated that the state is going to pay you that revenue, not the business itself. So you are not going to see any change in your allocations, even though that grocery tax is suspended. You will still get every cent of that in your monthly allocations. We've created a schedule for the businesses to use to report that information so we can get the correct amount to you, but there will be no impact on you financially at all by that grocery tax suspension. There's also a 9-day sales tax holiday in August. The only sales tax portion that is rescinded during that time is the state portion. So any local sales taxes will still be collected. So once again, you will not be impacted in any way. I know you see those things in the news and you get nervous. For good reason, you get nervous about that. But in this case, neither of those things will impact your bottom line at all. Just regarding legislation in general, we got the second the governor had his address and brought up that grocery tax suspension, we were getting questions about that. We Number one, we hadn't even seen there hadn't been proposed legislation yet, so there were no way we could answer your questions about that. We didn't have any more information than you did. And then secondly, once there is proposed legislation, we just read it on the ILGA website, and you have the option of doing that as well. We're not going to comment on anything in proposed legislation until it has been passed, because too many things can change during the legislative process. So in the case of these two bills, they're not going to impact you at all. They've both been passed and signed by the governor, so they are officially state law now. So we can comment on that and tell you that you're not going to be impacted at all. Also, for you counties that are here in the workshop, there have been some changes made the last two legislative sessions to the senior citizen tax deferral program, starting with tax year 2022 and going through tax year 2025, which is actually 23 through 26. The income cap for participants has been increased from $55,000 to $65,000, and the max deferral amount has been increased from $5,000 to $7,500. So our forms that you get on or around December 1st this year will be updated with that information, but we did want to point that out to you. That's a 3-year change. And then also in this legislative period, starting with tax year 2023, which will be your participants that apply in 2024, the interest rate is changing to 3% from 6%. Any of their prior years, the interest rate remains 6%, but moving forward, starting with tax year 2023, that rate will be 3%. Also, you may want to check out House Bill 5760 on the ILGA website. This is regarding municipal cannabis and county cannabis ordinances. It states that the local government must retain proof of filing for 5 years. So basically, If you submit that ordinance via My Local Tax and get your confirmation number, or if you send it certified mail, you need to keep that proof of filing for 5 years. Whether or not that passes, you can submit your ordinances now via certified mail. You can submit them. I showed you where you can do that in My Local Tax. So you can already do that. You don't necessarily need this state proposed statute to pass, but that is there. Do I know when the 9-day sales tax holiday will be? I don't have those dates in front of me. There is, let me pull it up. There's an informational bulletin on our website. Oh, I'm sorry. That's already, it's August 5th through August 14th. Sorry, I missed that had been answered. And Katie also provided a link to that bulletin. So thank you, Katie, for doing that. As far as the, I have another question in here. A private question. I will get back to you after the workshop so I can get more information about your question. So yeah, that legislation is out there. Like I said, that's House Bill 5760 if you want to read it for yourself. Right now, that's just regarding municipal cannabis and county cannabis ordinances. But for any of your ordinances, please, I showed you our mailing address. If you want to send those certified, you can. Like I said, you can also submit them through My Local Tax. And please be cognizant of the deadlines. October 1st and April 1st are the typical deadlines, but some tax types have some different ones. I showed you the specific tax-specific website where you can get that information about each tax type. I mentioned previously about business districts that we had a change coming for those. We are currently developing a business district electronic submittal process where you can submit your addresses electronically. Most of you are already typing those out, so it really doesn't change anything for you on the front end. What it does for us, though, right now my staff manually enters in all of those addresses into our system. That, number one, it's time consuming, which slows down the process of getting the verification documents back out to you. We want to get those to you as quickly as possible. It also, you can make typos when you type those in, and then my staff can also make typos or omissions during that time too. So if we cut that out, if we cut out the middleman of the LTAD staff typing those in manually, it speeds up the process and reduces the possibility of errors. So we are putting together, like I said, we're doing that process now. Hopefully you'll be able to use this in this next business district submittal period with a due date of October 1st. But just for your purposes right now, we're putting together an instructional document, but we can accept an Excel file, a CSV file, a Word file, a text file, and we need 3 columns from you: a street address column, a city column, and a zip code column. So if you would like to, even if the process isn't quite ready when you're ready to submit your business district documentation, if you would electronically submit those addresses in those 3 columns, we would greatly appreciate it. The other documents that you need when creating a business district, we will still need those the old way, either submitted via My Local Tax or through the ordinance function, or via mail. But you'll be able to send us an electronic file for the business district addresses to just speed up the process and make it more accurate as well. Just 1 second, please. There was a question earlier about how you verify that your residential addresses have been added to the business district. On that view business district addresses in My Local Tax in the business district section, that will also list the residential addresses if you've submitted them. So you can check that there. The 3 columns that we need for the and this is either residential or business addresses. When you submit business district addresses, regardless of residential or business, we need 3 columns. We need street address, we need city, and we need zip code. And if you do it that way, we will be able to process all of it electronically and greatly speed up the process for you and for us. So those 3 columns, and like I said, we're getting documentation together with instructions for you. So you will have that soon, but I just wanted to give you a heads up that that was in the works. I don't have anything else. Like I said, we've got 3 hours on the calendar. So if anybody has any other questions, we will be happy to answer them, whether it was about something we just covered or something relevant for you guys that we did not cover in this workshop so far. And while I say that, any of the LTAD staff, if there's anything you would like to add that I missed or that you want to clarify, feel free to unmute yourself and talk to the group as well. We've got everybody from LTAD here today for everyone. Yeah, thank you, Katie. That was probably a better way to do that. The 3 columns are the street address, the city, and the zip code. She has added that to the chat for you guys that are looking at the chat section.
Aaron, if I could ask you a question, this is Jeff Martinovich again at DuPage County.
Yes.
We did the reciprocal agreement about a year ago, and it's my understanding that the only when we do um, the allocation report, we're only getting the unincorporated portion, the CT. We don't get the RTA portion or the CST portion in the reports.
Yes, that is
Okay.
correct. For you counties here, I kind of passively mentioned that you wouldn't get the county motor fuel tax file, but yes, if a business is within the jurisdiction of a municipality in your county, then technically for you counties, that is not your business. So therefore, you don't get to see the information for it on your allocation remittance reports. The municipality, they would get it. Yes, you counties receive the 0.25% CST portion from that, but we are not allowed to share that information with you since their primary jurisdiction is within a municipality. You only get the information on for businesses that are in the unincorporated portion of your county. And that's the same reason for county cannabis and county motor fuel, why you don't receive those reports, because businesses within municipalities would generate revenue for you, but the business is within a municipality, therefore it is not in your primary jurisdiction, so you're not able to see that information.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Does anybody have any other questions or any other topics that you would like us to touch on? I knew this would go less than 3 hours, but maybe I talked too fast, but we got through that pretty quickly. I just wanted to give you some more detailed information on both My Local Tax and our website to try to answer some of the basic or the frequent questions that we receive. And we're trying to keep our FAQ updated as well. Like I said, if we keep seeing the same thing over and over again, maybe we haven't done a good enough job of providing that information to you. So we try to update our documentation to reflect that as well. Or we also tend to address those things in the quarterly newsletter if something continually comes up. I mentioned about recertification and being locked out of your My Local Tax account. We had a section on that I believe in the January 2022 quarterly newsletter to kind of discuss the different error messages you might get in My Local Tax and why you're receiving them. We've got a question about expanding on legislative changes that caused the increase in income tax. Some of that was federal, and some was state, and it was with the we're kind of getting into an area that I don't have a lot of information on, but it gets into the quarterly, or the estimated payments. That's the word I was looking for. Thank you. It gets into estimated payments and who has to make them and when they have to make them, and different reporting requirements for what income is taxable. I think that was something more at the federal level that was done. But all of those things, as well as, some people, I know the the COVID pandemic was bad for a lot of businesses and a lot of people's jobs. But then there's also people who did really well either during it or coming out of it, and that has led to the increased income tax payments as well, as we said, we set a new record with 14.4 billion in allocations this year. That's because all of the income tax was up, sales tax was up, all these various tax types. We saw an increase in collections for those. So I don't know. Like I said, I can't guarantee that that's going to continue to happen, but that's just kind of the economic climate that we've been in for the last fiscal year. I see another question here. Is IDOR's position still that municipal cannabis tax revenue cannot be publicly disclosed if there's less than 5 locations? Yes, that is the case. That's per statute. That's not necessarily IDOR's position, and that's for all business types, not just municipal cannabis. I mean, for instance, if you have a business district that only has 4 businesses in it, then you can't technically you can't disclose that business district information, because it's releasing confidential information if there's fewer than 5 locations. But that is more typically coming up right now with MCAN, municipal cannabis tax, because most of the jurisdictions have 1 or 2, fewer than 5 cannabis dispensaries within their boundaries. So per statute, you cannot release that information without breaking the confidentiality statute. Now, there's a couple ways around that. You can speak with the dispensary or dispensaries in your jurisdiction and get their permission to do that. And I'm not saying you post, hey, dispensary A, dispensary A had this much in sales this month. But if you have one dispensary and all of the dispensary revenue is set up to go into a certain fund, and that's the only revenue that goes into that fund, if at your city council meeting you provide a financial statement with the balance of all the fund balances and the increase or decrease in the last month, then anybody that looks at that, if they know you have one dispensary and they know what your municipal cannabis rate is, and they can see what was deposited in that fund that month, then they can back into what that dispensary sales were. So that's why you have to keep that money or keep that information private. Like I said, you can work that out with the dispensary. The other thing you can do is you can have those funds, whatever fund that money gets deposited into, if multiple revenue sources go into that fund, then people wouldn't be able to pick out the cannabis revenue and back into the sales tax figures. So that is that is what our policy is on that. Like I said, that's due to state statute. We are not, I gave you a couple possibilities, but IDOR is not going to dictate how you do that. That is more of a question for your municipal attorney and or possibly your county, your state's attorney. And that really goes for a lot of these tax questions. We can answer questions for you about taxes that we impose or that we administer, that IDOR administers. We get a lot of questions about various locally imposed taxes that you have to administer yourselves. If we don't administer the tax, we are not going to answer any questions about that. tax type. Those are questions for, like I said, your municipal attorney, your county state's attorney, someone like that. We don't want to speak on something that we are not involved in. Does anyone have any other questions that they would like to discuss before I end the workshop? And at any time, if there's something you think of afterwards, feel free to email us, feel free to call us. We are always here to answer your questions. I know I probably made it sound like we don't want your questions. That's not the case. We're just trying to point out the different information sources that are out there. We're providing you a lot more information now than we used to even a few years ago. So there's a lot more information out there for you now. And we do kind of get, like I brought up the 100 questions or whatever about the increase in PPRT distributions. We put that out there in a bulletin or in a newsletter, and it does tend to get frustrating when we see the same question over and over, and we know we've provided that information. So I apologize if I made it sound like we don't want your questions. That's not the case, but we would appreciate that if you make use of some of the resources we have available to you now, because we think we can answer a lot of your questions that way, and that saves you time. You don't have to wait for us to get back to you that way. If you've got a question that pops up, you've got the answer right away instead of waiting for a response for us. But we are here, phone, email, my local tax message. We're here to respond to any questions that you have. Well, I am not seeing any other questions. So thank you all for attending our virtual workshop, 2022 local government workshop. Like I said, maybe next year we will get back out around the state to meet with some of you in person. I've showed you our training materials page where we've got various previous workshops and previous presentations posted there. We will send out a My Local Tax message and a Gov Delivery message when this workshop posts. It will also be covered in our July newsletter. So keep an eye out for that. And once again, thank you very much for attending this year's workshop.